Alrighty, I want to do a reading right now as a follow up to a reading I did a couple days ago. And in that reading, it essentially said that the world serpent that's in all of these cultures throughout the world, the big fucking world serpent, that it is real. Um, so the Nordic, they call it Jormungandr, and it's also known as Leviathan and Tiamat. It has lots of names in lots of cultures. But in cultures throughout the world, there are stories of this thing. And it's a giant sea monster, and it's basically some kind of destroyer. And I just learned this after the other reading that I did. I've been doing a bunch of research on it, but as it turns out, in all of the stories that talk about this thing, it ends up fighting the storm god in all of these different cultures. It's specifically the storm god that fights it, which is interesting. But first, I'm just looking at, is this thing an actual thing? And we get two court cards. So our root card is the Page of Swords. And the main card is the Knight of Cups. Now, the Knight of Cups literally is some sort of serpent creature, right? And the Page of Swords is really about tuning yourself to see specific things. Now, it could be that this is a real thing, but not everyone can see it. So it might be some sort of like trans-dimensional thing or something like that. But let's just put a card on either side of the Knight of Cups. So assuming this is representing the serpent, the world serpent, and maybe I shouldn't say all of its names, and I won't do that now. So we'll just say the world serpent. Um, we'll just put a card on either side to see like where the energy is coming from and where it's going. Okay, and there it is. Now, this is the card that came up in the other reading that at first kind of put me along this track, because when I looked at the world in the other reading, the thing that was really sticking out to me was the serpent. Um, and this is the serpent that goes all the way around the world, bites its own tail. It is represented in the Ouroboros. Um, so, where is it coming from? Where is it going? Coming from the Ten of Swords. So, this is basically being trapped and, obviously in great pain. The Ten of Swords arises when there's something that we don't want to deal with and it catches up with us anyway. So this would be like, you know, whatever the fuck put it in this position, it's like maybe it knew that it could happen, but it just didn't want to deal with it, or maybe it couldn't do anything about it. But this shows being trapped. Not only trapped, but like tortured as well. Then we move forward into the Knight of Cups, and as it moves even further forward, we end up at the world. And the world is the completion. It is the end of one cycle. It is not yet the beginning of the next, but it is the end of the cycle. The world would show a coming home, sort of. Now, that leads to some other questions, but this looks like it is a thing. Maybe not everyone can see it, but this looks like it is an actual thing, especially in the fact that it shows up in a court card, which is a person, right? And then we do have the world, which literally shows the world serpent on it. But I think whatever state it has been in, that state is ending. Now, I guess I'm going to ask a yes or no question. Like, is this thing waking up? A nine of wands would show, I mean, essentially that it's awake, but it hasn't necessarily come out yet. So this is the person stuck in the maze, and there's the stairs that may or may not lead out. So it's like, how much hope do you have that you can actually get out of there? So this would actually show that it's awake and it's struggling with some sort of gut check. It's like facing some sort of crisis of hope. And I suppose if you're trapped in this state for a certain amount of time, that might bring you down. Okay. Now, let's just find out more about this box. I want to do this. I'm going to collect these, and let's just try to find out where it is. So, is it in a container? Is the bottom of the ocean the container? Like, where is this thing now? We got two that want to come out. Both of them being reversed. Now I have to check and see if the whole deck is reversed. And it is not. So where is it now? With two reverse cards, this might say that it's actually not even on Earth. It might be, well, here's the thing also. If it's a trans-dimensional being, then it might not be necessarily in this vibration or this dimension. And if this is its home, then the world card before would show it coming back to its actual dimension. Let's just look at these individually. Now, the Six of Swords is showing trying to get out of a place of conflict, but not being able to do it. And the Knight of Pentacles reversed is essentially about being stuck. Not being able to get a firm pattern to get out of whatever place, like it's inconsistent energy. So this would show a state of energy as it is still trapped in like some sort of conflict sort of zone or some sort of conflict energy. But currently, these two being reversed, even without looking at the meanings of the cards, it would say that it isn't here, right? But now the question is it coming here? And let's see, I guess that one's on the bottom. A Five of Pentacles. Boy, that could mean a few different things. Like, is it coming here? So it's being watched, which shows in this eyeball here. And this is showing exile, actually. Is it coming here? Like, this would show that it is currently in exile. So the other reading suggested that somehow military activities are fucking with this thing. Maybe that goes back to all of this stuff and essentially the box or the trap that it's in. I mean, is that what's keeping this thing exiled? So I will try to find out what this energy is, right? So what is the thing that's watching it that's trying to keep it exiled? And we get the reversed King of Cups. Now, truly, the King of Cups would be the King of the Sea, right? The reverse King of Cups is either an out of sorts King of the Sea, or the King of the Sea from another fucking land, another dimensional King of the Sea. I just want to, I'm going to pull one more on this because I am curious to see what we get. We got one more. Reverse Sun. And here I'm looking more at the King than I am at the Serpent. Boy, I don't know. I mean, the Seven of Swords is showing a lot of pressure. It's like whoever the king is has a lot of pressure to do a very specific thing, and the reversed sun would show a very powerful disharmony. Now, if this king of the sea is the one that is keeping this thing in exile because there's pressure on it to do so, there's a powerful disharmony that is throwing the King of Cups all out of whack. So they might not be able to do their job for very long if they keep getting fucked with. All right, hold on. Well, first, before I go any further with the Deviant Moon, we do have the Tattoo Tarot right here. And I shuffled the Tattoo Tarot looking at the same question. So let's just see what the other perspective is of this thing. Root card of a Five of Wands and the main card of the reversed Emperor. The reversed Emperor would be a lack of control or completely being controlled, and the Five of Wands is all sorts of disruption and chaos. Let's see. I'm going to do a yes or no to the Tattoo Tarot, and let's just see. The World Serpent, is this a physical thing? What are we looking at? And we get the Judgment card. Hoy. Now, I would take this as a yes, the Judgment card, and at least in the Nordic versions of the story, that is when the serpent shows up. It's essentially the end of the world. It's Ragnarok, right? So it is a real thing. I'm going to ask one more of this and basically ask the question of, is it coming back now? Like, is now the time of judgment? And a Nine of Swords. That's an interesting card to show up. So the Nine of Swords, this is when there is no logical answer to the question. It's something that you have to look deeper for. So the question of whether or not this sort of judgment time is happening now, this is not an answer that can be done with logic. So there's a lot of different things that means. I mean, one of them would mean that at the very least, there is a spiritual judgment, right? Because there's many different layers of reality and we have many different senses. So if the serpent isn't exactly on the physical plane, it could still affect us and it could still affect our earth, but it wouldn't do it in a way that we could necessarily see, or maybe not everyone could see it. The Nine of Swords is when you try to figure something out and you just get no answer. And it's like, no, close your eyes, right? Because you can't look at and logic your way out of this puzzle. Close your eyes and use like deeper senses or other senses at least. So in some way, maybe not on the surface, but in some way, this would show a time of judgment. And it would be something that you would be able to see not with your normal eyes, but maybe with like your third eye, or maybe with your, gut-based intuition or something. Now, what does this mean? And I'm going to look back at the Tattoo Tarot one more time for this before I go to the Deviant Moon. And let's just see this energy that it's talking about that we can't necessarily see. Like, what does it mean? We get the Hangman and the Queen of Cups. There's one more that wants to come out, and it's a reversed Five of Swords. Now, The Hanged Man does achieve some sort of enlightenment in this card. But in order to do it, they have to get a completely different perspective. They hang themselves upside down because they're trying to see the world from a different view. Now, it would show some sort of disruption, but a disruption that does lead to greater understanding. The Queen of Cups, this is, again, we're looking at intuition and like sort of psychic energy. The Queen of Cups is also the loving, devoted mother. And a reversed Five of Swords. Dang. It's a pretty fucking mixed bag here for what this means, but the Five of Swords would basically be all kinds of mental anguish. And the Five of Swords reversed, I feel like that is more of a projection of mental anguish, but the anguish is definitely there. I can't really determine whether this means a period of anguish would evaporate or if it would get turned up to like fucking 10. I'm going to pull one more on that just to see specifically which direction this is going. And we get the Knave of Cups. So, as far as what this sort of judgment period would be doing, we would have enlightenment, but it's enlightenment because of disruption. And this might be an expansion of psychic awareness and empathy and all of that sort of thing. And this might be some type of evaporation of the mental anguish that has definitely been ratcheted up for the last, let's see, count them, 7 years, at least 7 years, right? And I'm going from 2016 when shit really started to get weird. So this looks kind of hopeful when we look at the Tattoo Tarot. So now we're going to go back to the Deviant Moon because we can't be hopeful, can we? All right. I'm going to ask the Deviant Moon basically the same question. So with this serpent energy, maybe not everybody can sense it, but what does it do? Like, what does this thing do? So we get the Temperance card and the reverse Six of Wands. The Temperance card is a blending of two different things. What the hell? I was just watching some video and it was talking about the natural state of the universe. It's like if you have something that's really hot and something that's really cold, and then you put them together, they end up hitting a median temperature, right? Like they both go to this state that is kind of in the middle. I forget what the scientific word for it is. Right on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, that might be what this is talking about. If there are extremes, then this thing would get rid of them and it would make everything the same. And this reverse Six of Wands, I want to see what's on either side of it just to see what the hell we're looking at. Boop. Oh, geez. And there's a couple reversals going on here. This is kind of a mess. So the Six of Wands by itself, in reverse, is basically not getting any sort of recognition. It's like being born again and nobody cares. The reversed Four of Pentacles would be about not being able to move forward because you're holding on to too much stuff. And the Five of Swords, insult, that you can't do anything about. And the Ace of Cups is fulfillment. Wow. Now, I would just look at this and say it's probably a pretty mixed bag. So maybe the effect that it has isn't the same for everybody. Um, I have seen something like this in a dream before, and in the dream, it showed it as an unmaker. So it would basically erase things that were created. And it seemed to do that to everything pretty equally. But what just came out right there would say that it might be different for each person. All right. Let's look at a timeline. So, whatever the fuck this thing is, whatever we're looking at, let's get a timeline on when its energy is in full throat. Seven of Wands. So the Seven of Wands is coming out of restriction. So whatever fucking box it's being held in, it's probably when it comes out of that. And we get an ace. What's behind it? The reverse Wheel of Fortune and the reverse 10. Well, if we're looking at a timeline, generally the minor arcana are shorter periods of time. So you could look at that as I wanted to say 7 days just now. I don't think, I mean, I'm going to hope that that's not true. 7 days. But that is the word that wanted to spit from my mouth. But I guess considering what we're talking about, it would make more sense to put that as 7 months or 7 years. If we're looking at a major arcana card, then that would be a longer cycle, right? But reversed Wheel of Fortune, this is basically bad fate. And the reversed Ten of Pentacles, it's like inheritance that collapses. This moves forward. It comes out of restriction. It's almost like whatever it is sitting on is collapsing behind it as it moves forward. Like it has to get out of there because the place that it's in is kind of starting to fall apart. And as it moves forward, it moves into the Ace of Swords, which would be quite a state of willpower. Okay. I'm going to ask one more time because I fucking have to. Is this giant serpent a physical creature on this plane of existence? And the reversed sun and the reversed Six of Wands. I'm taking this as currently, no, it is not. It is in a slightly different phase, I think. More like a ghost, but not a ghost. Just something that is here, but maybe not exactly in the vibration that we are in. Just out of phase, right? But that doesn't mean that it can't affect the earth. I am going to pull one more. Hold on now. Because I want to find out if when it does its shit, does it come into phase or does it just maraud around invisible or mostly invisible? Does it come into phase? And geez. The Seven of Swords, we also do get a Five of Cups. I don't think it, well, boy, that's hard to say. This would say it would if it is forced to, but it might not be a good idea. Um, and the Five of Cups would show basically some sort of bad relationship. Like maybe it's got other shit going on, I don't know. Um, but I think looking at this, it could if it had to. But it wouldn't, only if it was like pushed to, right? Dang. Well, I guess I'm going to leave this just for time reasons. I'm going to leave this where it is right now. This is going to have to become a series because I have to look at the storm god aspect of this as well. But let me know if you have any comments or questions on this very bizarre reading, And that's what we have for now. Peace.